I wasn't around when that particular session was happening. Right now, I kind of just pop in LA and pop out, and there are sessions that are happening. I mean, a lot of that stuff is like NDA style when you start working with people at that level, and you just gonna be in a session doing what? Just like you know, I wasn't around for any of the 4/4 stuff particular, but I was around when it was being done. I had knowledge that it was being done before the rest, anybody else probably knew that it was being done. So I was there, but, and it's hard to know because there's so many people always going through, the studio areas. It's just, which room, is someone working in, you never know. But for a memorable studio moment with my brother, Dion No I.D. Wilson, would be the most recent studio visit that I had. So I fly down to LA like I usually do, let all my people know that, hey, I'm coming down, I'm gonna be down at this time, let's get together, let's hook up. And I'm with with one of my record dealers, Carl, and me and him are riding around. I usually shop with him when I have opportunity in LA. And so Dion calls and he's like, come by the studio. And I'm like, well, I got my man Carl with me. Is that cool? He's like, yeah, that's cool too. So bring him. I had my man Mikey Disco, who's a dancer and Knuckle Neck. And we go over to the studio and I'm like, what's up? He's like, I got to show you what I've been doing. So I'm thinking he's going to show me music, right? Man, this guy, he's something else, man. It's so funny. He's been like studying all the equipment, all the analog equipment, man. And he takes me into all these like rooms and closets. It's like a warehouse and it's all full with old vintage equipment stacked to the floor and the ceiling. I mean, it's the most amazing thing. I'm talking about pretty much every synth that I ever wanted. All the tube gear, all the mixing, the outboard gear, the reels, the tape machines, the pedals. I mean, it was just like a museum, man. It was really amazing. And for me, it was really memorable because, nowadays, a lot of people that get those things on the plug-ins and they have it, but not too many go and, chase down the real equipment. See, my thing is records, turntables. I collect those things, records, turntables, maybe some odd and ends, gear here and there. But to just see somebody really going and getting this like vintage equipment was really, really like mind blowing, man. I'll never forget it. And I'm not saying 5 or 10, 20 pieces. I'm saying to the point where you just like, man, if you show me one more room from the floor to the ceiling full of gear, man, I'm just going to fall out. It was like a candy store, man. And I just was like, wow. So this is what you've been doing with your spare time, huh? It's memorable to me because one thing I could take away from that was just, you think that, somebody with, all the trophies and all the accolades and the, good albums under their belt, you may be coming down the other side of the hill. But this guy is still going up. He's still, studying the equipment, still studying which piece did this guy use in 1976 to make this album. And, just to know that you're always a student, that you can always push yourself to a new limit. There's always another mountain higher than the one you just climbed, maybe. You know what I mean? That to have that mentality. We've always been like tech nerds. That's why we kind of connect, because we can get into the equipment on another level and be like, yeah, we could, sounds like another language, when you're talking, but to know that, yo, man, you can just always, push yourself to be better and always push yourself to do more. And then to tag on to that studio moment, after we did that studio session, he was like, now you got to go over to Adrian Younge and then you got to see his studio. I was like, okay, let's go to Adrian Younge and, let's see his studio. And that just was like the icing on the cake. I don't know, have you ever been to his spot or seen his spot? We were running late because I was with Just Raw. I don't know if you know Raw. We were just with, LA traffic, eating, just trying to make your way. And Dion had been sitting there, and I think he had to go to a session. So Dion calls like, yo, I'm gonna have to go to a session, but y'all should still come through. So we go through, and we hook up with Adrian. And I was really, that was a really good experience too, just to add on to the one I just had with all this equipment blowing my mind. Then I walked into Adrian's studio and they had a record shop in the front. So I couldn't even make, me records. That's the first place I stopped. I see the band of 45. I'm just, hands just start digging immediately, right? So I pulled a few things out. He's like, yeah, but that's nothing. I want to show you more. Then I see behind the record store, there's a beauty shop. And there's clients in there, they're getting their hair done, man. The vibe is real vintage, old radios and everything. It was really, really nice. And then he takes me into the studio. And I was like, oh, it's all analog, all pristine pieces, all done up in that nice, Adrian Younge type style, you know what I mean? The colors popping, and the actual mic locker is a mic locker. It's a gym locker. And it had the microphones in there. The jukebox is in the corner. The string room where they record the string sessions and all the instruments. And it was all analog. I don't think I saw a computer or electronic instrument anywhere in sight besides his own, laptop. So to see that people were making real music like that and, 2017, 2018, just to know that, man, people are getting back. He's going back to just, probably, professional takes, one takes, and doing everything on reel and recording everything live. Nothing is really synchronized or anything like that, and recording strings and getting the sound of the room and not relying on plugins to do that. I was really amazed. And the fact that he taught himself how to use this equipment, how to tech this equipment, how to write the charts, and how to, mic the best way, his techniques for miking strings or miking different sessions and writing string arrangements and just doing all that. And I asked him, I said, how long did it take you to teach yourself this? And he said, 20 years. I was like, wow, that's dedication, man. You just been on this, just trying to learn it, to teach yourself, for 20 years. And that was another great, memorable studio moment that I could take away from that. I was like, yo, Adrian Younge taught himself all this, and now it's all come together, and seeing it come together was a really beautiful thing. And those two combined moments were like some studio moments I'll never forget. It's not every day you get to see that. One of the things I've taken away from my brother, Dion No I.D. Wilson, creatively, is that you have to know what every single button or function on a piece of equipment you are using does. I mean, that's to me like the definition of a super user. He's going to know, short anecdote to why. A long time ago, even maybe around the time that he was doing Resurrection, I had a keyboard called a Roland W30. It was really complicated, came with a thick manual, just had the little small screen, nothing to really help you, just some numbers that you add up. And Dion said that keyboard is supposed to have good filters. I was like, yeah, but it's really complicated and hard to work. And he laughed, and he spent the whole day with that manual and that keyboard. And by the end of the day, he had figured out everything about it. I'm saying this was really complicated. I mean, it was the type where you take chunks, and then you use the chunks you learned, you go back, you get more chunks, and then you add that on top. But he had just consumed the whole thing. So one of the best things I've taken away from him is just learn your equipment, become one with your tool to the point where the only things you need the tool to do are things that haven't been created yet that the tool can do. You're using the tool to its maximum limit, almost to the point where the developers need to sit down with you to be like, yo, what are the next things we need to add to this tool that can make it better? Because you're using it at its highest level. You know every function, and then you even know about some functions that it doesn't do, or some functions that it doesn't do correctly, or like it used to. And that's one of the best things I've ever taken away from Dion No I.D. Wilson. One of the creative ideas or concepts that I was able to take away from Adrian Younge, and I was asking him a lot of questions, because I was just like, I'm always just like, I'm a student, and I'm blown away by somebody that's autodidactic, that's able to teach themselves how to be better without, going to a class or anything. They could just take it and push themselves to the limit and learn. And one of the things that I took, this real important concept that I took from Adrian Younge that I haven't been able to apply yet was the concept of investing everything back into yourself so that you could be better. So here's Adrian Younge's exact words to me. He was like, when you make all your money, man, spend it all back on the equipment. And I just thought I was like, spend it all? He's like, yeah, spend it all. You'll get it back and you'll learn. So I thought that was a very interesting concept, that he was not afraid or even challenged to take all of his profit and invest it back into himself. To believe in it to that point where you're willing to take all your profit and put it back into your own company, is a big concept. A lot of people won't make that type of investment, back into themselves. And for him to tell me, I was like, take it all? He's like, all. He wasn't skipping. I was like, 10% on the side, 50. He's like, take it all and put it back into yourself. And I just thought that was like, it was like a reality check. It's like I kind of figured that and knew that, but it was really good to hear that confirmation coming from the outside from him. He told me, he was like, when he did that, his business jumped. When he went from his house to where he is now, there was a huge noticeable jump in his business because he made the investment. His roots trace back to B-boys. So he danced with, I was a B-boy. I was born a B-boy, probably, but, his roots trace back to B-boy. And all my West Coast B-boys are like, oh, yeah, Adrian, the dancer? I was like, what? Like, yeah.